Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Honor the Feminine podcast. Today we have Christina Bertelli with us, and I am excited. She is amazing. So you know that we start every episode with an image from my travels and the story that goes along with it. Because when I was traveling is when I really started to hear my intuition again. When the day-to-day fell away, the expectations and the chaos of that, is when I really started to hear her again. She started to whisper to me. And I know she was always there, but she'd just gotten muffled. So today, our image is called Lotus, and it was taken in Bodh Gaya, India. Each year, thousands of Buddhist monks and pilgrims from around the world descend upon Bodh Gaya for the World Peace Ceremony. These lotus are a symbol of spiritual enlightenment within Buddhism. They represent encouragement for the gentle unfolding of the highest potential within. Each lotus opens anew each day. Daily, it has the chance to open up and experience the world in a whole new way. The natural process mirrors the opportunity we have to experience each day, each moment, with new and fresh vision. It can be the gift we give to ourselves every moment of the day. And this is the image that reminds me of our guest today, Christina Bertelli. Christina, welcome to the program.
Hi, Shannon. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. So share yourself with us. Tell us about you.
I am a 39-year-old woman. I'm an American. I come from a family of strong Italian cultural heritage on my father's side and a Celtic mix from my mother. My spiritual roots are Tibetan. As a child, I was a nomad with my family. We moved around, traveling around the U.S., and then I spent my teenage years in Belgium. And I'm an herbalist. I've been formally, for the last 12 years, I've been a devout student of natural medicine and healing, studying as a Western clinical herbalist in Colorado for many years, but also just being in love with all modalities and learning as much as I can from friends and colleagues and mentors throughout the journey. And I would say my purpose, my connection to what my work is in the world here today at this time in my life, what I've chosen or what's chosen me in both ways.
Beautiful.
It's to help women remodel their feminine home in their body.
Oh, yeah, let's let that sink in for a moment. Can you talk to us a little about the Western versus the Eastern with regard to herbs and being an herbalist?
Sure, that would be fun. So I love the Western herbal medicine path that I've been on because I get to walk outside and see these plants before me that grow locally and really tune into the reality that there's medicine in the earth and it's all around us and available to us. And the Western tradition definitely is, that's very alive, that it's the people's medicine. And we try to remember that this is the way of wisdom of our grandmothers. And we try to encourage people that may be our clients to tap into that. And some people just don't have the time and they want to be just given the tea. But a lot of times it's very empowering to connect with the idea that, like, especially living in Western North Carolina, you could go out and collect a bunch of nettles from your neighborhood and make tea with them yourself. And what an abundant, rich supply of healing that you have right outside. And that is a lovely thing. So I love Western medicine in that way, or Western herbalism. And then for me, the Eastern traditions, like Chinese medicine in particular, has such a beautiful framework of understanding, and you might say diagnosing, or really that means understanding the dis-ease pattern and picture of your client, of the human before you, and seeing the elements of air and earth and fire and water, and where they may be in balance or out of balance. So that is very well developed and highly sophisticated in Eastern traditions. So I love learning that and incorporating that into my point of view when I'm coaching, teaching, and understanding people that I work with, or my own body.
So when we're talking about remodeling that space for women within their bodies, that brings us to the Yoni. So can you Yoni with me?
Yes, our power center, our place of creativity and intuition. It's magical, it's powerful, it's mysterious, it's awakening. It's been dormant. It can get dormant for any woman at various times of our lives, and have what the Chinese medical analysis would call turbidity or stagnancy, stagnant qi. So that just means stuck energy. And we really, I think a lot of us are becoming comfortable with the idea and reality that mind and body are one. It's all one. And so it can begin with a thinking pattern, or it can begin with a physical pattern and then lead to and affect the thinking pattern. Either way, whatever is the beginning does not necessarily matter, but they are interwoven, and both end up being affected, mind and body. And so it's very critically important to connect and explore that area, find the safety to explore that area, which is on a cultural level dark, and sometimes on that physical level it's the light's not on, the energy and activation is not quite on. So I'm learning and teaching and working in community with women on the journey of bringing light, bringing love and honor to this area of our pelvis. Our Yoni is both the womb space, what you might call the second chakra, and also the first chakra, that area where we have our vagina and our vulva. All of this is known as this energy center of creation, the portal that we're birthed through, the Yoni. And it's orgasmic and creates the universe. And what I love is that, it's not just about reproduction in that sense of making a baby. It's producing life and ideas and birthing whatever that may be for you as a woman into this world. And so it can be a woman prior to making babies, or a woman that is chooses not to, or a woman in menopause who's beyond that phase of life. This area is still a power center for everyone.
And can you talk about some of those practices to awakening the Yoni?
Sure. So one that has become quite popular, I could say, thanks to Gwyneth Paltrow, she's definitely put it on the pop culture map, and that's Yoni steaming or vaginal steaming.
Which I love.
Which you love and have experienced both, in different scenarios, and something that I've done since it began in 2014. I started doing gatherings of groups where women would get together and we would all do a Yoni steam in a circle. When I had that inspiration, there was certainly a part of resistance, like, really? Are you kidding? Are we going to be doing this? How are we going to feel comfortable with that? How can I make that comfortable? But I knew that was what we were ready for as a community, and what I think was going to be very healing, and it has proven to be that way. So I usually start with a discussion about the benefits and then create a bit of comfort with Q&A and why we do this and how it's an ancient practice.
Where does it come from?
Many cultures will have a history of doing this. They've identified, actually at the Library of Congress, one of my mentors has gone and looked into this, and the 3 original ways that have been identified in the historic record of ways that humans on the planet began interacting with plants. There was tea, there was herbal baths, and there was women squatting over pots of herbs. That's a Yoni steam.
Yeah.
I learned about it through my studies in Mayan healing, and it's very popular and probably of anywhere most alive still there today, as a way to, their focus is on the womb, the healing of the womb with a Yoni steam, and they call it bajos, or a womb steam. And the idea is that these plants are rising up on the steam and traveling up through the vaginal canal to the womb and creating a womb like a sauna. And with that heat, it brings activation, and the herbs are carried up on the steam and will help to maybe help encourage release the contents of the uterus. So sometimes women have a hard time expelling completely and thoroughly. So you might see a bit of brown blood, and sometimes you may see brown blood, and that's an indication that the steam will help as a practice in a woman's life. And so, it's going into the body in a couple different ways. It's, as the Mayans look at it, it's going up and actually entering into the womb. But when you think about it, the herbs that are best for this practice are going to be ones that smell great. And so those are aromatic herbs, and they contain volatile oils. And they are actually, so their medicine is actually in that steam that rises up from the pot. And then that warmth hits the vulva, which is really porous tissue, and it goes right into the bloodstream. So it's a way to take it truly into your body.
And how do you choose which herbs? Is it woman to woman? Are there some that are sort of normally used for this, if you will?
Yeah, there's definitely one in particular that's normally used. The most popular would be mugwort. That's found in the Korean steam. The Mayans like to use it. Chinese herbalists love mugwort and use it regularly for moxa. That's moxa treatment, and that's all about activating qi and moving blood. So we all know this herb across the world. And so it's great for this concept of activation and enlivening the qi and the blood as qi. And so it will help to move, it's known as like a gentle uterine stimulant. So it will help in that way.
Interesting.
That's a great one. And then other favorite herbs would be lavender, oregano. Oregano is certainly one that Rosita Arvigo talks about. If you have no other herb, just grab your oregano from your kitchen cabinet, or any of those Italian spices in your kitchen cabinet that smell amazing and have a potent aroma, like thyme, oregano, basil. Basil's a beautiful one and gets used as a blessing herb, throwing it into the mix to bless all the other plants. But it certainly, too, has its constituents that are antimicrobial.
Oh, so lovely. I love all this stuff.
Yeah.
So talk to us about how you honor the feminine and stay in touch with your intuition as a practice.
Great. Well, this is a thought that I've been exploring, and it's been fun. I thought back to when I was, prior to my life as an herbalist, I was a wilderness therapy guide. And I remember my first few weeks, I was working in the deserts of Utah, and I was with the boys group. There were just more boys groups than girls groups. That was just why I was working with the boys, working with a group of boys and male co-instructors. And then about maybe the second or third week, I was doing well. And my boss, when I got out of the field, said, okay, next week you're going with the girls. I'm going to put you in the girls group. And my heart dropped. I was terrified. And I wasn't even sure why, but
fascinating.
That freaked me out at that time. So this is in my early 20s. But the beginning of this journey, I see it as such a profound moment where I realized that I was terrified to be in a group of all girls and also going to be probably working with women co-instructors. So I resisted, and he said, okay, we'll put you in the boys group if that's extremely uncomfortable, but I want you to look into this, and we're going to get you eventually into the girls group. So I mostly worked with the boys, but I dabbled and found, what was my fear? It was because of the intensity that girls possess in that dark side of the feminine, which was a lot of secrecy and potentially backstabbing and this like manipulation that could just be explosive. And I had no way of understanding or feeling safe. It was very scary and probably going back lifetimes of fear. And I grew up with an older brother that I worshiped, and he's an amazing man, and he's still wonderful, and I admire him greatly still. But that was what I respected, was more of a masculine style, watching my brother and how he cultivated and lived his life, and his way of working with his personal power was more around the energy of athleticism, and he was kind of a quiet person. I followed him in many ways, and I was comfortable with that, and his friends were often around the house. So I was comfortable with good, fun-loving, friendly men and boys. And I was so out of my element with the girls and the women energy. So I think what is significant for me is how my path and all the different journeys with medicine have been involved, but more profoundly is my shift and willingness to embrace the wholeness that is the feminine, and really understanding the depth of where that manipulation and that dark feminine kind of underground energy comes from, and respecting that and seeing where that is in me, and having the compassion and the courage to be with other women and collaborate with other women and step into the ways that we're more powerful together rather than like fearing what a group of women together can do. I don't feel that way at all. I celebrate and, get excited and full of enthusiasm and chills about what women can do together. And that's how I feel like my community is changing and my heart is changing. And so therefore what I'm seeing in the world is changing. That's a big way that I feel like I honor the feminine now in my life today, and how that's changed. And also on the level of how I develop my personal power on an ongoing basis in my life. I did grow up as an athlete and a bit of a tomboy, but now I am fascinated with dance, and I've been studying belly dance, and I love this type of more feminine personal power. And that's a major shift for me.
What you've done there is so gorgeous because, as you know, that's very much similar to my story. I actually don't have a brother. I have a sister, but I grew up playing with the boys, and have been reluctant to sisterhood.
And boys are wonderful, aren't they?
Boys are great. Boys are great. But in this patriarchal society, I have found, because I have masculine energy, I could tap into that. And it brought me out of balance. So when we're talking about chi and moving and the balance of it all, the honor the feminine is for me about bringing me more into balance with the masculine and the feminine. Not masculine bad, feminine good, just more balance. And I, like you, have found this gorgeous, sacred space in sisterhood that, one, I didn't know I was looking for or was so desperately in need of, really, when I really look back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And second, how quickly it has healed that old story around women being catty and mean and us not supporting each other. Because I, like you now, have a lot of women that hold me up, support me, help me create abundance. And as we're creating abundance together, and the collaboration versus the competition. And it feels like this rising up of us all. And if what we're doing here, if the magic we're making today contributes in the tiniest bit to that rising up, then that's a win for me. You know, like that's part of the way I'm meant to be of service within the rising up.
Beautiful. The image of the lotus, I think, is relevant, and the mud is where the lotus grows from, that dark space. And there is darkness in both masculine and feminine. And I think that as women, we are coming from the mud and opening our petals of our lotus and finding the celebration of that life. And the beauty of that. And it's definitely happening on a larger scale on the planet. It's such an amazing time to be alive. And I feel the reality of the rising of feminine divinity and power. And I'm so honored to be a part of that. And I feel like that's part of the work that I do as a Yoni healer. And I think that we have such sense of darkness and mud in that space in our body. And the more we can clear that up, I feel we have more capacity for compassion in our life for both the men and the women that we're surrounded by, and the beauty on this planet. Oh,
I think, yeah. I think that's so true. And it's interesting because, the journey for me too, especially in the last year, and maybe like the last 8-9 months, has really been to start to feel into that womb space for myself. Because I have found pretty clearly at this point that I move from my solar plexus.
Okay.
And so I hold a lot of tension there so that I can power through from that space. And, if in the idea around chi, then that energy is not getting down to my womb space or my root. And that takes a lot of energy, I've found, for myself. And that as I can reconnect and create that loving, like, sensual relationship with my womb space and down to my root, that energy wells up instead of being forced from my solar plexus and feels depleting now. But I did that for so long that it, the habitualness of it and things like the Yoni steams we've done together. God, it's just, it just opens up that space to move down into. And I think that's so gorgeous. And I thank you so much for your work around that.
Thank you. It's a joy. Yeah. It's certainly a journey that I went on myself, and it feels only natural to share this, which I know the most about in terms of natural healing, because I've gone through it myself. And
when was your first Yoni steam, and where?
I did it with a practitioner who was giving me a Mayan abdominal massage, and it was like the prelude to the bodywork session on the table. Was she set up a steam in her office, and I sat there by myself and experienced the steam. And I think must have been before that, I learned about it in my training with Anne Drucker as I studied Mayan healing. It's a very critical part of that work.
As you sat with that steam, did you have that thought like, oh, I'm going to start sharing this with the world?
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. I was like, this is hot. Am I doing this right? I'm not sure. How long do I sit? Oh my gosh. I don't know what's going on. Or, this is just, I felt uncomfortable and uncertain if I was doing it right. All those things.
Yeah, that's my experience as well. Even though it was you and I really trust you very deeply, I had those feelings well up as well. There's a vulnerability in it all.
Absolutely. Huge amount of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that vulnerability to play in the dark and to open it up and to drop in to that. Mm. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, it's all of our work, it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, great power in vulnerability. And we hear that from Brene Brown in terms of using our voice and how we share and interact in our communities. And I guess I feel like that sitting over Yoni steam is just like using that power of activating vulnerability, but there's no words, it's just this movement, this choice to, lift up your skirt and sit over this pot. And it's more of a physical vulnerability. Mm. And I think there's a lot of fear and shame in that, in our tissues. And we have to face that in this very mysterious way when we sit over the pot of herbs for the first time. Mm. And maybe for the second, third, and fourth. Different layers get peeled of the onion of the healing process. So.
And I think that so beautifully speaks to this idea that our cells hold on.
Yes.
That they hold on to the energetics and to the physical, but they hold on to the energetics as well. And so, that opening up can feel very vulnerable and the shame. Yeah,
they're very, very responsive, or what's the word? I guess open to the influence of energy, and in that way, we have such an opportunity to recognize that, and not only do the clearing work, but do the honoring, the bringing in of these beautiful energies. For example, rose has such a high vibration, and you put rose in your steam and you're offering that energy up to your yoni. You're inviting your cells to play with that magic and receive that energy. Flowers are lovely to put in steams, flowers of all kinds. And, I always have flower heavy formulas, and it's a way to share and communicate that language of the earth and the beauty of the flowers to our own flower in our body, and imprint that energy into the cellular structure.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I can see that and feel that. Mm. Can you share with us your favorite tea? What's your favorite tea to make?
Wow. I love tea of all kinds. I'll tell you what I'm drinking right now. I'll tell you my current blend.
Oh, and I think that's gorgeous, because just the way around honoring the feminine, those practices can change over time, moment to moment, day to day. I love that idea of what's up right now, what is nourishing your body in this moment as a tea. That's awesome.
Are we talking about drinking a tea or a yoni tea?
Drinking a tea.
Yeah. So I have out pulled off of my shelf chamomile, lavender, licorice, and lemon balm, and calendula.
Lovely.
So chamomile is so amazing. I love that herb. She's so sweet, such a energy of comforting the inner child. It's a great herb for children, and that sweet appley smell is very earthy and so anti-inflammatory. And it brings all that anti-inflammatory and calming medicine to the gut, and that's what I need. I know a lot of folks do.
And pretty much across the board.
Let's do that on a regular basis. And licorice, really sweet and harmonizing herb, also great for the adrenals. And we've got the floral smell of lavender, which is very calming as well. Lemon balm, also great for calming the intestines and the nervous system. And calendula is a lymph mover. Also so good for healing things like leaky gut. It has glutamine in it. A lot of us take glutamine as a supplement, and calendula has its own glutamine built in. Wow. So that's my formula. It's yummy.
I love it. Does it often change sort of season to season? Like, do you feel yourself being pulled as we get into, as we're moving into fall, and then we'll move into that darker winter? Is that a time when it shifts for you, or not necessarily?
Oh yeah. I move my teas around, and I drink different teas frequently. And yeah, I love rooibos tea and cinnamon and vanilla. It will definitely change throughout the year. And then in the summertime, it's great to do cooling herbs and demulcents. Demulcent would be something like marshmallow root, things that cool you off. But, I definitely drank a lot of that in Colorado, where it was severely dry, but not as serious of an issue here. So in summertime, I just like to stay hydrated here. And sometimes that doesn't include a tea. So I wouldn't say that I drink herbal tea every single day of my life, but it's so good. And as for comparing Eastern and Western herbs, that's one of the great things. I find that the Western herbal plants are far more delicious than Chinese herbs. So
that is so true. I've had acupuncturists through the years, and sometimes those teas are chokeable, if you will. You choke them down.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. I love that we got back to the Eastern versus Western. That's lovely. So do you go out and pick a lot of your own herbs locally?
I would love to do more of that. And sometimes I do. I get in a little phase of that, of course, in the spring and into the summer. And then when fall comes, or late summer, I love picking goldenrod. There's certain plants that I get excited about when they're coming around. And living here in North Carolina, there's just an apothecary that you could build all year round. There's so much abundance here. But it's hard to keep up with all that. Yeah. If I was just a wildcrafter, that would be amazing and fun, and I'd be busy. But goldenrod is a favorite, and I mentioned nettles, and certainly just wild foods like the food herb thing, flowers. I typically, those go on my plate pretty quick and eaten. But I don't usually save and harvest enough quantity to put it into, my apothecary. So often I like to rely on the people that are growing and doing that and focusing on that really well. Like, I know Amy Hamilton is someone you've had on your podcast, and she is amazing.
Oh yeah,
and so are her herbs. So I've bought herbs from her, and that's really fun to be able to support people that are really focusing on that part of herbal craft and enjoy what they're harvesting and celebrate that.
Yeah, to be with someone like Amy, who has such a deep relationship to the actual soil, like to the earth of the biodynamics and all that, like, she blows my mind.
Yeah, and it comes through in the plants. So
yeah, and then
the medicine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the potions that she creates, they're awesome. Yeah. And it's so fun to have a community like that here in the Asheville area. to tap into, I think.
And there you go with what I was saying about collaboration. We have the opportunity to collaborate as humans, and then as a group of women healers. And it's very easy, and there's great opportunity to do that here. But I think anywhere. And our world is becoming more global. So, it's the community of this whole planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's a joy. It's a joy.
Yeah. On that note, my love, are you ready for the random questions?
I am.
Okay. So if you could sit down with a woman, alive or dead, for a chat and tea, who would it be?
I would want to go back in time through my lineage of grandmothers. I don't know how far back it goes, but grandmothers, until I find one that is a healer of some sort. And, that could be looking like the local medicine woman, or just a healer as a mother. And I want to meet her. And I think that would be so amazing. I feel like I am a black sheep in my family in terms of how I see the world. And I just know that I came from somewhere with that DNA of earth connection and plant wisdom. And I am curious who that is. And I want to have tea with her and talk to her and hear what her life was like and how she wove the wisdom of the plants and healing into her world.
I love that. And actually that brings us beautifully to our second question, because in the second question, it's around how I felt like a black sheep of my family, right? I wanted to be out in the world and traveling, and that was not something that we grew up with, especially not in the way in which I did it, like on the ground, for months. And so the second question is, where would you most like to travel?
Well, I have a lot of places on my list for where I want to travel. I grew up traveling, as I said, as a nomad, and it's not been the theme in the last 5 to 10 years. So I am ready. And I think, either between the Mayan lands or probably, it's a toss up between going to the Mayan lands in Yucatan or the high mountains of Tibet. Yeah. And explore some of the energies of the earth and being way up on the mountaintops. I'm feeling just a completely different way of life from these people. And somehow there's like a resonant energy that I feel between Tibetans and Mayans. And
yeah, what came to me was both areas are steeped in tradition.
Yeah.
And like long lineage tradition.
Yeah, in the healing tradition, it's definitely connected with the energies of earth, air, fire, water. And I feel like there's great wisdom that could be shared verbally, but also just from being on the ground and sharing space with the people that walk the land there. So we'll see. I could go either way. Yeah.
So my love, how do we reach out and connect with you? How do we deepen in with you?
Yeah, I have a couple ways that one could reach out. I have a website. It's called femmebotanica.com. It's spelled FEMMEBOTANICA. And you could find me there on the contact page, explore a bit what's going on. There's another womb healing method, modality, healing strategy that I love, which is a castor oil pack. And those are on the page there. I could also be reached through email, christina.bertelli@gmail.com. Yeah. I would love to talk to anyone that's curious, about anything, any avenues we didn't get to explore today. And yeah, I'd be honored.
And you will be able to find all of that over on the show notes for this episode at honorthefeminine.com. So it'll be really easy to click and get to you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shannon. It was lovely to talk to you.
Oh, thank you for today. This was so fun. I'm so glad we did this.
Yeah, what a great chat.
Hello again, everyone. It was fantastic to be with Christina today. I see Christina as a Yoni healer, and through that, a sacred space holder for the healing of the feminine. I'm deeply grateful she has brought Yoni steaming into my life, and that I get to hang out with her from time to time. If you want to connect with Christina and all the beautiful herbal remedies that she has, you can go over to the show notes at honorthefeminine.com. I also invite you to deepen into sisterhood with me and all of our sisters in our sacred space at Honor the Feminine Daily on Facebook. It really has been fun to watch how we all ebb and flow as we deepen into the divine feminine. And we've been cultivating connection in that sacred space. And I love all the beautiful connections being created. Like it warms my heart so much to be in sisterhood with all of you. Finally, if you love today's podcast, please share it with a friend. That's how I get turned on to all the new podcasts in my life, is when the sisters share them with me. All right, everyone, have a beautiful day.